everybody, Dr. Mark Lance here. Welcome to this week's edition of Lead Like You Mean It. I am so delighted to have you on board here every Wednesday, 12 noon, Facebook page here, Christian Center Live. We are just so glad that you're with us. And I just want you to do a couple of things for me. First of all, I want you to like the video. Secondly, I want you to share it with your family and friends. Make sure that we can just gather this community together every Wednesday at 12. And thirdly, I want you to make some comments. We've got somebody that is right here with you that's going to reply right back to you. Questions that you have, maybe comments, maybe things that you would like to know as far as future subjects that we can talk about. We're just talking about life. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about influence, how to really chase the dreams that God's put within us. And I am just so honored to be able to take this journey with you. So thank you for taking the time. So listen, the last couple of weeks we've been talking about living the prioritized life and primarily time management, which really is a misnomer. I've told you time, you can't find more of time because time isn't lost. And it's really not about managing time. It's about managing yourself. It's about managing your priorities. And that's really been the subject that we've been talking about. So today, I want to take that one step further and let's talk about really scheduling your week out. What does it take for you to be the most productive individual that you possibly can on your job? Well, let me ask you this. If you go to the airport and you have a flight that is scheduled, how many know there's a specific time that that flight is scheduled to take off? I mean, the airline doesn't call you and say, okay, well, your flight's going to leave sometime between 2 and 5 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon. No, they specifically say your flight leaves at 3:42 p.m. and you better be at gate F at 3:42 or you're going to miss your flight. Trains, they run the same way. Businesses, they run the same way. Now, we expect that out of flights. We expect that out of trains. But what about you and I? Shouldn't our lives run by a schedule? I'm telling you guys, if we would just begin to live our life by a schedule, we would get so much more accomplished and we would get the most important things accomplished. So let's talk about how do we do this. There's a process that I have every weekend before the week starts on Monday. I call it my weekly planning session. And what I do is I get my laptop, I get my journal, and I get my calendar, I get my to-do list, and I get it all out in front of me. I get a freshly brewed cup of coffee most of the time. I put some nice music on, and I sit down and I begin the process of planning weekly. Now, the first thing I do is reflect. I look back. I look back at the week ahead. I've actually got a sheet that I fill out that's got certain categories. One category is wins. What 3 things happened last week that I would term as wins? Great things that happened. Second category is losses. What are 3 things that didn't happen or maybe didn't happen the way that I wanted them to happen? I write those things down. Now, why would you say, Pastor, why would you write down losses? Well, listen, you got to learn from your mistakes. You got to learn from what didn't happen so that you make sure that it doesn't happen again. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're bound to repeat your mistakes. Then I have a category called aha moments. Things that, like a light bulb moment, something that I learned, something that happened like, okay, that's great. I can use that to move into my future. So I reflect. I look back at my journal during that reflective time. What did I write down? Are there some lessons maybe that I need to just put in my heart, my mind as I move forward? Then I look at my calendar. Were there meetings that I had last week that I need to follow up on? Maybe phone calls that I need to follow up on. And then lastly, I look at my task list. Are there things on that list of things that I said I was going to do that need to be moved over to the next week? So that's my reflection stage. Now, after my reflection stage, I go into a stage that I plan for the week ahead. Now, before you get that to-do list out and before you start scribbling all the stuff that you feel like you've got to get done, don't do that yet. The first thing you've got to do is identify the roles that you play in life. Listen, this is learning to schedule your priorities. Everybody plays different roles. For example, let me give you my roles. Number 1, I'm an individual. Number 2, I'm a husband. Number 3, I'm a father. Number 4, I'm a pastor. Number 5, I'm a son and a brother. And number 6, I'm a friend. Those are the 6 roles that I play. So what I do now is I will, under each of those roles, what can I do in the coming week that is going to help me be a better person? be a better husband, be a better father, be a better pastor. I list at least 3 priorities underneath each of those things. What I'm doing is I'm setting goals for my roles so that I can maximize who God has called me to be. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, your roles are different than mine, okay? You've got to identify what roles in life do you play, and then set some goals for each of those roles that you can put into your schedule. Now, after you set those goals is then when you want to schedule those things. For example, as a husband, taking my wife on a date this week may be the number one thing that's going to help me be a better husband. So what do? I've got to schedule time that I'm going to plan the date. Then I've got to schedule the actual date itself. See what I'm doing? I'm taking the time that I have and I'm putting my priorities in the time that is allotted to me. Listen, I've told you this before. All of us have the same amount of time. Okay, we all have the same amount of minutes, 1,440 minutes per day. What's up to us is what we put in those minutes. And so the first thing I do is schedule the priorities based on my roles. Now, when it comes to my work role as pastor or president of LaCie Ministries, what that means is what are the probably the 7 to 10 things that have to get done this week that are going to move me forward in my career. I will list those things out. Is it a Sunday sermon that I need to prepare? A Wednesday lesson that I need to prepare? What phone calls do I need to make? As president of a ministers network, what do I need to do to make sure our ministers and leaders are being taken care of? I list those 7 to 10 things down. Then once I list those things down, listen, here's the problem with a lot of people. They list a task or they list a to-do, but then they never schedule when it's going to get done. Can you imagine? Okay, an airline saying, okay, I know I got to fly from Los Angeles to Boston. Yeah, but whenever I feel like taking off, I'll just take off. No, they schedule when they're going to do their pre-flight checklist. The same is true for you. Whatever's on your task list should also land on your calendar. If it's going to take you 30 minutes to do a project, schedule it from 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., let's say on Tuesday afternoon. What are you doing? What you're doing is you're scheduling your life out. So basically, when somebody comes and says, hey, you got a minute? Literally, you can say, I'm sorry, my schedule is full. You see what you're doing? When you schedule these things out, you're deciding what is important and you're making sure that your calendar reflects what is important to you. I love this quote by Mark Sanborn. He said, review your schedule. He said, whatever you choose to do it like there's nothing else that you would rather be doing. In other words, when you schedule something, pour yourself into it like there is nothing else that is more important than the thing that is right in front of you. Listen, I'm talking about really living the prioritized life. So once then I have all of those things listed, I've got my roles, I've got the goals for each of those roles it is planned, I've got the tasks that I need to accomplish as a professional in my career, my calendar is full. That is the time that my schedule is done. Now, you can add some things. Some people do. I don't always do this, but you can look long-term. What are some of the long-term things that you'd like to do? What are some of the long-term goals that you would like to achieve? Write those things down. Okay, basically that's keeping your eye on the big picture. It's looking beyond today, next week, next month, and looking 3 years from now, 5 years from now. What are you living for? What are you working towards? When you do those things, it keeps your heart in alignment with your goals. So listen, I hope this makes sense to you. And I just challenge you this weekend, Saturday, maybe even Sunday afternoon after you get home from church, take some time, get into a quiet place, and plan the week ahead. Plan the week ahead. The reason that weekly planning is so important is, let me ask you, how long did it take God to create the world? 6 days, right? There's something about that week that is just a natural time period in which we can plan out our lives. I challenge you, try it this week. See what happens. Just see if your productivity will go to the next level and your priorities will get done in a much more advantageous way. All right. So, hey guys, like the video. If you've got questions about what we talked about, please put it in the comments. I want to make sure those questions get answered. If there's a subject you want us to talk about for future episodes, please put that in the comments as well. I want to address the greatest needs of your life because listen, I'm here to take the same journey you are. It's a journey of life. It's a journey of leadership. It's a journey of really achieving what God wants us to achieve. So God bless you guys. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you next Wednesday.